Hi, Ladybug. I realize this comment was well meant, and also you are in Canada, so you may not be aware of how our two-party system works here in the States. Yeah, sure, we could have a third party here in the States. In fact, I think that our entire governmental system would be far more resilient and we would be far better at learning how to work with other people. There would be less divide, less of a binary in this country. We would have far less extremity if we had not just three parties, but if we had more than that. Like, why can't we be like, like Germany? What do they have? Like six parties in their Bundestag? Like, why is it that we only have two in the States? I mean, I know why, because the development of a functional third or fourth party in this country is a threat to the power of the two that we have, especially when we look at the ways that establishment Democrats often function as controlled opposition for the Republicans. But not all Democrats do. In fact, if you look at the Democratic Party, we almost really have at least two parties within the Democrats because we have this entrenched two-party system. People that might otherwise really be working families or DSA or some other kind of party, they run as Democrats. Look at the Progressive Caucus in the House in particular. In a different country, those folks would not be in the same party as Alyssa Slotkin or, Ruben Gallego or Jared Golden or Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez. If we had 3, 4, 5 parties, then folks would have to figure out how to compromise and to form coalitions in order to have a functional government. Our whole country would be really different, and I think in a very positive way. How do we cultivate that? I don't know. I could ask my kid who's a poli-sci major. This is not my area of expertise. But if we're looking at the midterms, right, less than a year away, we cannot magically constitute a third party between now and then. It's the same thing we saw in the 2024 presidential election. Nobody had done the work that takes years of development, starting on a local level and then building power for a third party. Get a really comprehensive, strong, local third party with lots of grassroots buy-in. Candidates who are able to successfully run on a third party ticket and get elected around the country. Then you can build a state level, then you can build to a national level. Instead, we see the Green Party come in as spoilers, and then they have Jill Stein run once every 4 years just to suck away 1 or 2% of the vote, and no serious attempt to form a functional third party. That's not going to work. We didn't see it work in 2024, and it's not going to work for the 2026 midterms. You have to invest in a third party and you have to build it from the ground up. And we're seeing that with Working Families Party. We're seeing it with the DSA. But what political party doesn't? I tend to personally support Working Families Party candidates when they are on the ballot because I believe in building them up as a third party. If you want a third party, then you need to start supporting it on a local level. Build the support, build the party so that you have people who are invested in that party, the values of that party, agree with the platform of that party. That's how you build collective power. That's how you build something where you could eventually run folks for Congress, folks for the presidency on a third party ticket. But we don't have it. To believe that, when I saw people in 2024 think that Jill Stein was going to get elected as president, and they're like, this is, it's like a protest vote, or I don't know. When we don't even have people in the House of Representatives getting elected from that third party. What on earth would make you think that that party has enough power and organization and buy-in from the American electorate to make it something that can do anything other than be just a complete fantasy? It's just people who engage in magical thinking that think that you can magically constitute a third party out of nothing. So yeah, I think our political landscape would look entirely different in a way that would be far more resilient and effective, that would help us get away from this really strong divide in this country that the Republicans stoke, right? They want civil war. They want it to be this very intense binary where we are split down the middle, Republican and Democrat, and they are trying to paint this narrative like we should be at war with each other. Now, the American people overwhelmingly are not buying into that. But if we had more diversity in our politics, if we had more of a diversity in our political landscape, if we had more viable parties with different perspectives and different goals, that they could never get a majority of their party elected, and so they would have to form coalition governments and compromise. Here, we'll take some of our platform and some of yours, and we'll have to negotiate, and we'll have to figure out how to work together. Because what we're seeing right now, with the Republicans is they're basically saying, like, it's our way or the highway. You give us everything that we want or else get fucked. And then we see the Democrats foolishly believing that there are still conversations that can happen across the aisle, that there's still bipartisanship that could happen. If we had 3, 4, 5, 6 parties, we would not be experiencing that kind of tremendous pull one way or the other, and one party totally dominating the other and being unwilling to have any kind of compromise at all. We need more compromise in our politics, less rigidity, less extremity. People would have to learn how to work together to govern on behalf of the American people. So yeah, I would love to see that. What are you doing to help support that third party here in the States? What are you doing to organize on a grassroots level and accept that this is not a quick fix? I see so many people when it comes to getting us as a nation out of this terrible mess that we're in. So many people want a quick fix. That's why so many people advocate for violence. So many people foolishly believe that the midterms are magically going to fix everything. Yeah, it's a lovely fantasy to think that there is one thing that could just wake us all up from this and it would all be better. It'll all just go away and life will go back to normal. That's never going to happen, y'all. This is a long haul to get out of this. This is decades in. It will be decades out. A long time in the making, a long time digging out. And maybe part of that digging out is the investment in building another party or two to be competitive with the Republican fascist party, which we got to. Nope, we need to not have any party in this country that is a fascist party. So we got to think about what we're going to do with those Republicans, but something besides just the Democrats. In the interim, though, if we're looking at just the midterms, I think what we need is a Tea Party style populist takeover of the Democrats. Now we're hearing tonight that I'm filming this on November 12th, late at night. We're hearing tonight that a Democratic socialist has been elected mayor of Seattle. Zoran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist, won the election for mayor of New York. We have DSA members on city council here in Portland. As much as conservatives are terrified of the word socialist, the platforms, the policies, the organizing for working class people that happens from the DSA, those values and that vision for the future of this country, tremendously popular with young people. So should those folks try and build their own third party? What we're seeing is when those folks get elected, it's because they tend to run as Democrats and want to reform the party from within. So I think when we're looking at the midterms, that's really the solution, is that we have primaries with very progressive candidates. And you have to know what's going to work in your district, right? We all deserve representation. One of the things I really appreciate that Ezra and Leah from Indivisible talk about is like, there's nobody from another state that should be telling you what kind of representation you should have in your district. We shouldn't have money from out of state pouring in to our congressional elections. You deserve to have representation for you and the people of your district. So if you don't like the entrenched politician and their corporate money, their dark money that funds them, then your district can find somebody that you want to have run in the primaries and challenge them. Somebody who will represent you versus the billionaires. Somebody who will represent you over corporate profit and their stock portfolio. We each get to do that in our individual districts. That's what democracy looks like. And I think there are enough people who are motivated to do that in districts all around the country, that can happen organically on a local level all over the place, and it can be really successful. So for the midterms, I think it is primaries. It's putting forth progressive candidates who understand what we need, not only the kind of fight that we need to be able to defeat the fascists, but also the compelling vision for this country going forward, what kind of America we all deserve. So it's not just fighting against the fascists, it's what are we fighting for? What do we want to build together? And if those folks can get elected as Democrats and completely remake the party, I'm down for that. But even if they do, I think in the long term, 3 or 4 parties, we would be much more stable as a country and our politics would be better for it. We would be better governed.